Hello Tarot fans, welcome to another edition of Blue Sicx Tarot. I'm your fantastic host Blue Sicx. Thank you very much for watching. Now first off, I'd just like to thank everyone who's been subscribing recently, even though I've not been posting for a while. I do apologise for that. Unfortunately, life has just been getting in the way, but I do thank you all for subscribing, so welcome to all my new subscribers, and thank you for all of you who've been subscribed all this time. Coming up to 3 years on this channel now, so that's quite exciting. So, what are we going to be doing today? We are going to be doing something very special and very unique. It's a Scarabeo deck. I'm not even going to lie, it's Scarabeo. Roll on that intro. So today we'll be looking at the Dark Mirror Oracle. So one thing I should say, some of the images are a bit creepy or might make some uncomfortable, so little warning now. So first off, the box. The skull, the skull's kind of like a good entry point. However, this is actually not one of the better pieces of artwork in this deck. I'd seen it in my friend's store for a while, but I was kind of hesitant because it didn't look particularly interesting. And some of the images on the back don't necessarily get the full feel of it either. And as you can see, it shows you a nice several languages that it comes in. I'll just a box, good solid box. You have a nice little tab. I always like the little tabs. So of course we've got the book. Now the book doesn't actually contain any artwork of the cards, but it does give you details, the meanings. It has moon phases which are on the cards, and it just pretty much goes into detail as the cards themselves are just named with the image. So we first start off with this lovely gem that was on the cover, and see, even so, it's still not, the cover still wasn't quite fully detailed in this in showing what this card actually is. This one is Triumph of Lies. So if you do like your more darker decks, this would be a very good deck. The cardstock itself is quite nice. The back is kind of plain in detail, I guess, but it is still quite not oppressive, but it's still very basic in its design. I'm not saying, not in a negative way, but it's still quite basic. There's not a lot of complexity involved. So next we have this lovely lady here, which is the Temple of My Body. Now the reason I've actually chosen this deck for a video today is because as I'm trying to get into more sort of ritual stuff, I like to use tarot and oracle during those, and this is kind of perfect for certain types. So I do recommend this if you do like using decks for rituals. Next we have Obsession. Little reflection mirror there. Love the what looks like roots, tree roots in their hair. And I said you've got the moon phases on each side as well, and all the cards have this kind of squared and triangles. Then it's Is This Me, which really cool artwork there. Very kind of comic book Boris Vallejo sort of look to it. And then we have Gilded Regret. I like a nice little elf there. I do like the strand, not quite knowing if that's an adornment or if it's just something that's been put on, affixed to them. Then we have Alone in the World. Now this one feels very different compared to some of the others already, as it's quite light coloured. It's quite light, and you've got really cool kind of arches there, so you can kind of feel it's more like a desert sort of area. Then we have A Sacrifice. So this one's quite interesting. It does have that kind of dark fantasy sort of look to it in regards to the feeling this person's going in, wherever she's going, she won't be coming back, sort of feeling with the title there. Then it's the child I was meant to be. Now this to me feels quite interesting, because this person is in quite bright colours. So this is kind of, it has that feeling of like a lost potential. I could, in the idea of I could have been so much better. But that's kind of what I get from that. So envious gluttony. I do like that, kind of like a zombie sort of thing. Sorry about that. I forget people don't like cracked knuckles. But yeah, I think that one looks really cool. Something you probably see on a Magic the Gathering card, actually. Not that that's a bad thing. Colourless Angel. Looks quite good. Those of you who might do angel work, this might be sort of card to use for a ritual. Or if you're like me and does like certain atheistic style of rituals, this would be perfect as well. Addiction, I think, is very poignant in the concept of like any form of addiction, any negative addiction can cause harm, but you still keep going. So I do like the depiction of that one there. Artificial heart, so I have more like an AI sort of feel to that one. Still pretty cool. I love the little monogram there. Blinded by pain. So this is probably one of the more uncomfortable images. I'm not a fan of flies. I find them very... I know that though they are fully necessary in the function of nature, I find them disgusting. But that's my personal prejudice and bias. But I say it out loud, so that means it's okay. But yeah, this one has a kind of Two of Swords feel about it as well. No, sorry, Ace of Swords. Because they don't necessarily need to be in this position. And next we have Hiding Your True Self, which has more of the moon tarot for that one. But the artwork itself, I don't feel that necessarily goes with the main meaning. But they're still... It's close, but not quite as how I would imagine that. But it's still really nice. Masquerade, one of my one of my favourite sodas. Yeah, there's just so much colour and detail in this one. I think it's really cool, and I also like how the artwork is broken up within the structure here, which I believe is supposed to be the mirror. So I do like the fact that there are gaps within this. And then we have Black Flower Fragrance. So I kind of feel that as a more... I mean, granted the book itself would tell you in more detail, but I tend to do intuition type stuff. So this has more of like the a bittersweetness to it. Something it's really... the feeling of something really beautiful, but at the same time there's like a sadness to it. Forgetting Oneself. This one I think is pretty. This one I quite like, and also I'm very happy with the fact I've been able to read through these properly without stumbling over any of the words. He says this now, but yeah, I like this one. The idea that you can always it's a thing that people say a lot, where you can put on a mask, but if the longer you wear it, it stops being a mask and just becomes you. So sometimes it can be very tricky to keep being you. Naked Before the Stars. Now this one, as the artwork is slightly different to the rest of the deck, but it's still quite nice. It's very lovely. Not necessarily a dark feeling to it, which is good, but there is a lot of kind of like there's a nice bit of emotion in that one, I feel. So we've got Parasite. This makes me think of the term of like a psychic vampire. This person is the parasite rather than being affected by one. Downcast Pride. So of course this is more the adage of pride comes before the fall. It might actually be biblical. I'm not quite sure. In context, concept at least. Yes, the tree roots here I think are quite nice. Now I'm not quite sure if that's supposed to, because it looks like the shoulders, but then that looks like the inside of the clothing as well. So, and also it's the same kind of headdress we saw earlier. Bride in a Cage. Now, This one does this one does feel kind of powerful in its illustration here, and the overall vibe to this one. In the more feels like the bird in the gilded cage. So I won't cry for you. Yeah, I guess that has I feel this one. Feel this one. It's kind of not wanting to show sympathy, but genuinely do. So it might be a feeling of misplaced feelings. Then of course we've got the good old revenge. This one I think looks really cool. The fact that these, now I'm not quite sure which one to mention, how to mention this first, but it looks like these wings are tree roots, or these tree roots are wings. So I do think that looks pretty cool. I think that's really cool. Make a great poster. I'll probably have that on a t-shirt. And this does have a kind of gilded, kind of like jilted bride, rather than just like a jilted wife. So this does kind of like an angry bride. So Queen of the World. This doesn't necessarily feel like this belongs here. The artwork is nice, but I don't know, it doesn't feel like it really fits with a lot of the other things throughout this, personally. Fated to suffer. So sometimes we always get that feeling that something bad's happening. Oh, I guess I've done something to deserve it, so I'm not going to complain. And so this is kind of like inherent suffering, or like past life karma, that sort of thing. Peaceful among thorns. Now this one I think is pretty cool. I've been saying that a lot, but the device behind it, kind of symbolising sunlight and rays coming from of this monk, and being able to find calm in the midst of stress. And it's a lot of things it's things like a lot of us say nowadays, where it's very hard to be away from technology. So it does have that kind of being able to find the forest amongst the city. Fragmentation. See, my reading is getting better. So this has a kind of high priestess sort of feeling, as you with the crescent moon at the top there, but obviously this is focusing more on the idea of being very incomplete, which I think is very on brand with this deck. Perseverance to dream. Oh, perchance to dream. Oh well, I stumbled eventually, but perchance to dream. I think these are bones coming out. Not quite sure. This works with the feel of the deck, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to say, unless it's in a particular spread and the layout of the card itself being obvious as to what it means. But this has a very the meaning of this doesn't feel very intuitive in that regard. Anger and chains. Once again, art-wise, it doesn't feel like it belongs in the deck, but this does have more of a feeling of just out-and-out chaos, which I still think, which I like. Cooling the Storm. This feels like it's more of another. This feels like it's more of another vengeance sort of card. Mika, kind of like not really calling in arms, but maybe backup, or summoning the wrath. So you might not be seeking it. You're still seeking the revenge, but you're doing it indirectly. Atonement. Now I think a lot of us can kind of relate to this. So once again, it has a 10 of Swords sort of feel to it, and I believe there's more than 10 swords here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we'll say there's 10. We'll say there's 10. But yeah, I think a lot of us tend. I mean, I'm speaking more for myself, but I know a lot of us tend to have that feeling where when you do bad, you've got to make it up. You've got to make it up, which is why when you have the inherent suffering, as we heard earlier, it has that feeling of, well, I must have done something bad, or bad is something bad happening now. I guess I've just got to lean into it because I'm supposed to pay for it. And then we have today for tomorrow, which is a nice little reminder that that the stuff we put out and the work we put in today will affect tomorrow. And stuff like this is a nice little reminder, and I like the kind of plant they have there as well. So that was the Dark Mirror Oracle by Le Scarabeo. I hope you did enjoy, and I do recommend this one. It is lovely. The card stock is really good. It spreads really well. Now, as they're an Oracle deck, they're slightly larger than the standard tarot. Oh, tape measure. So this deck is 5 inches by 3.5. So if you're a person with smaller hands, this might be trickier to shuffle, but you can just spread them quite easily. Yes. Once again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on the social medias, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.